There are powerful symbols contained in this story we tell in the churches on the second Sunday of every Lent. A story that occurs in all of Matthew and Mark and Luke. All of their Gospels hold this story. And amongst those powerful symbols are these. Jesus walks to the mountaintop. Why a mountaintop? In the whole Bible, a mountaintop says, get ready. There's going to be a revelation. Then he takes 3 people with him. Why just those 3? Because perhaps they were the only ones spiritually mature enough for this revelation. There he stands in the midst of them, in the middle of those 2. On each side of him there stands Moses and Elijah. Moses and Elijah are symbols of 2 parts of the Hebrew Scriptures, the law and the prophets. Maybe in our language we could call it the conservatives and the liberals. The law is what conservatives tend to be into. They conserve the past and its codification in the law and carrying those laws forward. And the prophets wanting to change things. What the liberals tend to talk about is change. Conservatives and liberals are both contentious sides of so much that is a problem in our country right now, but not just our country, most of the countries of the world, and our universal church. Between conservatives and liberals, there is this contentiousness, and it's becoming an awful problem. And notice where Jesus stands. Here is Jesus standing between them, seemingly saying, they both are part of the picture. They both belong. We will never come to know the whole unless we learn to let the other side from us speak and be heard, listened to. Unfortunately, so much in our culture insists that we take sides. Jesus resolves the conflict by holding them both together. He's showing us how to do this and that we must. He who is the incarnation of love is showing us that this was what following him demands and what love looks like. There's no other way society will work but to hold seemingly opposites together. In the end of the story, this is symbolized by the fact that they both disappear. And he stands there, alone. Beautiful symbolism, beautiful, beautiful symbolism. In the end, the differences disappear. And there's just what both sides want so desperately, the common good. The common good, this Jesus life. This is the big picture, the end picture. Something has to push the conservatives, the traditional, to move further than they would tend to move given some of their anxieties and fears. And something has to slow down the progressives, liberals, from going so fast in their impatience that they lose the ground underneath their feet. We conservatives don't want things to change. And for sure, if change is going to happen, it will only happen when we become convinced that it's connected to the past, this change, and to the values of yesterday and now. We liberals are so impatient and restless. We see the people who are hurting by the way things are, and we want to fix it, and we want to fix it yesterday, and we want to change the rules immediately. We are energized by newness and possibility. We conservatives are scared by where all that could lead, unmoored. But this image, this symbol of Jesus standing in the middle, this symbol of conservative, of Moses and the law, and the symbolism of liberalism and the prophets and Elijah. Please do not hear that Jesus was a moderate because he stood in the middle. That's not what this is about, by any means. Actually, he was conservative in many ways, and he angered the liberals, and liberal in other ways, and made the conservatives very mad. Will the exchanges between these two be lively? You better believe these exchanges will be lively. Yes, very lively. And loud and raucous and disordered and chaotic and sometimes hurtful. That's okay. The passion says we care and care deeply, but it can also say we want to control the other. We want to win them over to our side. But this passion doesn't have to tear us apart. It does not have to mean divide and conquer. It doesn't have to destroy the human family. It doesn't. Together, Jesus is saying, together, we make up the human family. Together, conservatives and liberals in the church and in our nation, together, we will make better choices that will continue to secure the best and open us to the change that life will demand along the way if we are to survive and if we are to grow. Both and, not ever, just either or. That's why the fourth symbol emerges from the story. The skies open up. The sky symbolizes in the scriptures a higher consciousness, a higher perspective, a different, bigger perspective, say from some 30,000 feet instead of right across the road. God's point of view. The sky's opening symbolizes for us a higher consciousness. And the voice out of the cloud saying, listen to him. Listen to him. If this human enterprise is going to work, it matters that we listen to him. It's no wonder they fall back in fear. Who wouldn't before such a challenge? But our job is to do just that. To go from this little chapel tonight into our week with the desire to stand with Jesus in the middle where Jesus stands, telling the world by the way we live that the law and the prophets, the conservatives and the liberals, they all belong. They all belong. And I'm going to show that by the way I live. It's harder to do it that way than to take sides. But if we say we're following him, the one in the middle, holding the ends together, if we say we're following him, and if we want to stand where he stood in this world, if we want it to work, that's how we have to begin to see ourselves. To begin to see ourselves as people standing in the middle, holding the ends together. As we move once again into this political season and the issues become contentious, and we all have our strong opinions, this story should provoke deep spiritual introspection. American Catholics and people of all stripes should take a lesson from St. Patrick, whose feast we celebrate today. Patrick pulled together the warring sides in his day. He pulled together the warring forces that were coming from every side of him in a very primitive world. Some were very violent. But Patrick did something in the middle. Oh, he tried to persuade, he did. And as a matter of fact, was extraordinarily successful much of the time. But he used only nonviolent persuasion. Nonviolent persuasion. Nonviolent in his words and nonviolent in his actions. We don't have to change who we are. I don't have to become conservative for you to get along with you. You don't have to become liberal for me to get along with me. We carry that perspective throughout our lives and with conviction, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how we're made, as a matter of fact. But in these conversations, as we try to persuade, and that's really important to be able to do, we can only persuade with nonviolence, only using nonviolent persuasion. That's leadership, my friends. That's leadership. And that's what it looks like to lead like Jesus did, to follow Jesus and be his disciples in our day, ready or not. But only the spiritually mature will get this. And unfortunately, most of us do not rise to that level of spiritual maturity. But we can.